Thank you all for coming to this whole event. My name is Scott Bushkie, managing partner and founder of Cornerstone Business Services. It was our little vision of our team to put this thing together this half day, and we're really excited to have everybody here. My goal here today is just to talk about whether you're an advisor, business owner, looking to buy a company, whatever it is. Been doing this for about 20 years now, and the different common mistakes we see made over and over again from people that either try to do it themselves or not. You saw in the stat. Preparing, was there a lot of preparation in business owners thinking about going to market? Very little. And you think, this is their largest asset. So, you think they'd spend some time on this, and they just don't. A lot of it's because, business owners just don't know what they don't know. And, they want to keep things confidential, and they don't want to tell anybody because they don't want their employees to find out. And they only do it once in their life. So it's just, where do you go to talk? And it's just, you can see why the closing ratios out there are 15 to 30%, depending on what, the size of the company and the industries and things along the line. So that's my goal today, is just educate, give you a couple different ideas. We'll try to hold the questions till the end. I'll try to get some questions in at the end just so we can get through everything as we're on a little bit of a tight time frame. So a little bit about Cornerstone. Again, boutique investment bank located here in Green Bay. We've got offices in Iowa, another one out in California. Work throughout the country, sell side, buy side, estimates of value, and business analysis. So basically valuation. Some of the industries that we work in, so quite a few across the board. The industries that we don't work in on the sell side or buy side typically are kind of your bars, restaurants, single location, brick and mortar retail, and things along that line. Size of revenues, we talked before, again, kind of that 5 to 100 million, but from a sweet spot, it's that 1 to 10 EBITDA, 150 to 150 million from a valuation standpoint. So no matter what size it is, even if it is a bar, restaurant, retail, we can help do that estimate of value. And we've done those now for about the last 9 years. We had a bunch of CPAs that call us and say, hey, my client just wants to know, just to get an idea for their business or for estate planning purposes or for a buy-sell agreement. Can you just give them a realistic idea without doing some big full reports? So we put it together for $2,000. And it takes about 2 to 3 weeks to turn around. And they're very good, realistic, really based on what we're seeing out in the market today and other companies like theirs that have actually sold across the marketplace. A little bit about us, and who we are. We just went through and did a rebranding. But the biggest thing is our mission, to create positive, life-changing events for all the lives that we touch. And that includes the event here today to try to bring some good value with all the different speakers that we have and some of our different values. So business owners are putting their businesses at risk, their lifestyles at risk. And do you think these numbers are big numbers, or do you think it's just a few businesses that are not set up right to sell their companies?
Big numbers.
Big numbers, yeah. So if you look at this, survey says in the next 10 years, this was an Exit Planning Institute survey. So this is Wisconsin businesses, and this is not, the consultants thinking, oh, this is what my client should or shouldn't do. These are the business owners themselves giving the answers to this. And in the next 10 years, 72% of business owners are going to transition out of their business, whether it's to their son or daughter, management team, ESOP, or external sale. Just in the next 5 years, it's 46%. So again, we're not talking, well, this is 5% of, if I'm an accountant or attorney, I'm going to lose 5% of my business. This is these are big numbers over the next 5-10 years. And again, these are all the boomers, right? We've talked about boomers for everyone out here. 60% of those are boomers, so that 54 to 74-year-old person, this is what we're talking about. And what we've seen on the sell side, if someone gets over the 70 mark, it's going to be real hard to get him or her out of that business. A lot of our clients are in that 55 to 70-year-old range, and we just seen it that their identity is so closely tied to that business that they don't know what else to do other than continue to run the business. And another stat was 64% said that they rely on their business as their primary investment on that survey. So that states that only 34% or 36% have passive income. So if they made one of the common mistakes, had to shut their business down and sell it for cents on the dollar, liquidate their business, going out of business sale, whatever you want to call it, 36% are okay and can do that today. 64% need to make sure that they have a good outcome. Otherwise, their lifestyle is going to be significantly different than what they think it should be, and that's not just their lifestyle, right? It's especially in the Midwest. It's taking care of the employees, otherwise they all lose their jobs. Their legacy that they have is, after 10, 20, 40, 50 years, gone. So that's some of the stuff that we're seeing out there. So what's the number one expectations? And this probably isn't, for people who work with business owners, this is by far number one. Business owners think that their business is worth more than what it's worth. And again, you think about that, we look at it going, okay, why is that? Number one, have they had a valuation done? Have they had a realistic valuation done? Now, there's valuations you can get done that are more formula driven, and what we've seen in the flaws in some of those, I think Dr. Craig Everett talked about that today. If you put in a high growth rate, it's going to significantly throw off the value of your business. So we had one that came in, and in the last 2 or 3 weeks, we had one that came in at $1.34 million, and their largest normalized EBITDA in the last 4 years was $200,000. And it was a small machine shop, nothing special machine shop in Northeast Wisconsin. So a 6.7 multiple for that machine shop in town. Anybody want to buy that machine shop for 6.7 times? No. And that's what the market's going to tell them too. And we said, no, it's really different. Here's what's going on in the marketplace. Here's what the businesses like yours are selling for. It's more like $700,000-$800,000, probably for that company. So 43% haven't had a valuation at all. In their entire life, they've not had a valuation, let alone a credible valuation that they can stand behind. Guess how many people had a valuation, of those that did have a valuation, who has had one in the last 2 years? What would you guess? 15%. Someone, yes, very good. 15%. Yeah, Jeff knows these stats from EPI. That's right, he's cheating. He helped to create these stats, so thank you, EPI. Outdated, no buy-sell agreement, 66%. So again, this is where for Cornerstone, for $2,000, you can get an updated buy-sell agreement because, as you know, what happens if there's, you get a buy-sell agreement when you buy the business with your partner and it's a $4 million business and you put $2 million on each other, and also now 5-10 years later, it's not worth $4 million anymore, it's worth $10 million. And all of a sudden now something happens to one side or the other, and you go, oh, well, here's the $2 million. Well, where's my other 3 coming from? Well, maybe the bank will do it. It depends on the cash flow, but a lot of times it might be some kind of a seller note paid out over 5, 7, 10 years. Well, then what happens to the business? Boy, I want to invest in this new machinery, this new equipment, or get more people on board. Well, I can't do that because I got to pay off the note. And all of a sudden that business stagnates, and we all know if a business stagnates, it's going backwards, it's not going forward. So just some different things to really keep in mind and keeping up to date. We call this the proud parent syndrome, because when you talk to a business owner, do you think it's just some physical asset like a stock portfolio or a mutual fund, or is this like one of their kids? And everybody's kid is what? The best looking, the best athlete and the smartest kid in school. And so here's, so there's my 3 kids. Now, when we do this estimate of value, this is where they start looking. And they go, okay, I'm going to get this valuation. Boy, it's going to come back great. I'm really excited. This is what it looks like. In most cases. This was after she found out that the ice cream store in De Pere was shutting down. That was the last time she could eat ice cream there. So what do? So most people don't get a valuation, and they just go, okay, my business is worth, and it's always an even number, 20 million, 15 million, 10 million. And they go, that's what I need. And does a buyer care what you need or what you think you need? No. But most times what you'll see is that they need more than what they might really need. So the value might be really worth 17 million. They think it's 20, they need 21. They turn on offers for 16, 17, 18. What they really needed, if they would have gone through, the process that I talked about before and I'll talk about again, they really need 15. Well, they turned down those offers, and all of a sudden, they burn out, the business goes like this, and they end up shutting the doors down, liquidating for maybe $5 or $8 million, just the assets. And now that, again, the legacy goes away, the employees lose their jobs and things like that. So helping business owners understand, the real value of their company is by and far. If you do that, you've already got someone 50% of the way there.
Scott, how do you do that? Because obviously that's what I think we that work in the business really struggle with.
Yeah.
How do you explain that to people that think you're just crazy, that you just don't know what's
Yeah, we try to do it with as much factual information and education as possible. Cornerstone, we just don't say the number's 10 million. Why is that? Well, that's our proprietary information. We show them here's the industry experts that we talk to and what they're seeing in the marketplace. Here's some deals that actually closed, same industry, similar size. Here's what, Katie just got a deal done and she saw the multiples being, whatever it might be. So we try to bring as much information in as possible to educate them as much as tell them what the number is. So the second reason that business owners, leave money on the table or don't sell their business is that they hold on too long or can't let go. And you think that's financially, I just need to make a little bit more money, or do you think it's emotionally? Emotional, absolutely. It is part of them, it is their identity, and they really got to have to separate those two. And we've seen it where if someone comes into Cornerstone, well, hey, what are your hobbies? What do you want to do afterwards? I don't have hobbies. I don't know. All I know is that I own this business. I'm burnt out. And what will happen if they don't take the time to try to separate themselves from the business and also look forward to the future is they'll start going down that path and get scared to death that it's some black hole that they don't understand. And they'll run right back into what they're doing because at least they know that they've done this for 40 years and what the heck, I'll do it for another 10 or 15 until I go away or somebody takes it over. So really looking at the emotional side of things. And this is one that, as bankers or accountants, attorneys, when you're helping someone start up a company, begin with what? Begin with the end in mind. And it sounds so simple, but you talk about private equity groups. Private equity group will not buy a company typically until they know how they're going to sell it or who they're going to sell it to. And that's why they get the returns that they get. Otherwise you see business owners that buy it and, they take off and they get a lot of energy and then they kind of get into that lifestyle business and then they're just, making pretty good money. I don't have any covenants with the bank anymore and life is pretty good. And all of a sudden, how are you going to get out of this thing? Well, someday, somehow, I'll figure it out, kind of like with death. Someday there'll be a funeral. I don't know if I'll plan it or someone else is going to plan it, but it's going to happen, and we'll figure it out. So, and again, I think this is a myth that most business owners think because we're all entrepreneurs, we're all going to live forever, and we control everything, including snow days. The 5 Ds, 50% of people exit their business not proactively, but reactive. And what are they? They're death, divorce, disability, distress within the company, and disagreement with a partner or spouse, or whatever it might be with management team within the company. So 50% of the time, you're going to go out this way. So that's not really great odds. So again, if we're talking about planning and preparing, if some of these do happen, at least your company's set up for success. It's easier to transfer. There's more value there. You can find a buyer easier versus if you're just you're the whole business and you've got it all inside your head and it's just going to go, basically the business will just evaporate and go away because if you're not a part of it, if it's all about you and if you go on vacation and your phone's blowing up and you can't really even take a vacation, that's a big concern for a buyer looking at buying the company or even for the management team because they go, well, we always just called Scott, and he'll handle, he handled everything, so we never really had a chance or a need to make a decision along the way. So if you saw, you'll see in the private equity group thing, which is going to be really cool, and you heard him talk. Guess what buyers care about? What you did in your peak 5 years ago or 10 years ago, or what you did last month. What do you think? Yeah, so we've literally seen companies been profitable for 60, 70 years, multiple generations. And guess if they weren't profitable for an 18-month period, guess which period it was? The last. And what do buyers care about? The last. So you can literally have a company for decades, generations, and we go back to holding on a little bit too long. If you hold on 12 months, 18 months too long, you can easily erase 20, 40, 50, 60, or not have a business to sell at all. So again, if you're a business owner, really sitting down of when do I want to be out of this business? Because it doesn't happen overnight. It is a process. It's not an event. It's not like selling your house in today's marketplace. You put it on the market and next week you got an offer and you're out 30 days later and you pack up the truck and you go down the road and there's the keys. There's the planning piece. Then there's, national averages are, probably 8 to 12 months to truly sell the company. And then you've got to stay on after the fact because that buyer most times is going to want you to stick around for 6 months, 12 months, could be 3 years or more. Again, depending on who the buyer is and how much of the business you are. So if you say, I want to be out of this business and be in Florida, so I'm not in days like today, when I'm 65, well, you got to work the numbers backwards. If you're 64, you've already missed that window. So you've got to go back, geez, I'm 60 now. I better start planning, start bringing my team together and everything else, and then plan accordingly because we see this all the time. Unfortunately, retirement right now is the number one reason because of all the boomers out there right now of selling their businesses. But number two, burnout most times. So the value between Burnout and selling on top is significant. The multiples are significant. The emotional distress is significant because you can either go out on top, running a proactive process, or you can react to something that's gut-wrenching and now you know you're selling it, but should I, shouldn't I, and it's not the right time, but I just can't take it anymore, and all those different emotions that go through the business and go through the mind. Number 3, not understanding the value drivers. I've seen people come in and talk about, well, we've been doing this program and that program, and I go, that's great, and you might really like that, but most buyers really aren't going to care about that. I had one guy come to my office years ago, and it was a smaller business, but he had been in business for 16 years, and he wasn't making any money. Even with adjustments, he wasn't making any money. He was burnt out. And I said, what do you think your options are? What do you think the value is? And he said, well, I think it's worth $1.6 million. And I said, okay, well, can you tell me, how did you come up with that number? And he said, well, I have busted my butt for 16 years, and that's got to be worth at least $100,000 to somebody. I said, but you're not making any money. Well, yeah, I know, but then the next line I got, again, more Main Street businesses, I started 20 years ago. But isn't there some guy in Chicago that's looking for a tax write-off that just wants to buy a business to lose money? Literally, I bet you I got that at least 10, 15 times. I go, those guys that are making the money, they don't buy companies like yours that are losing money. They like money. And so no, there's not those people that will just effortlessly throw money away. So, customer diversification, making sure that top customer, you want it to be 20, 25% or less. Once you get over 25%, I would say the bankers start to get a little nervous. I know the buyers start to get a little nervous. Now it might lower the value, might be more on an earn-out or contingent payment versus more cash at close. Same thing with suppliers. If you've got some great deal with a supplier, but that's the only supplier you can get it from, what happens if they go out of business? What happens if they get bought out by somebody else and now they change up your deal or whatever it might be? Trends, looking at the sales. Again, trending up and having this kind of a story versus, well, we did this and then we're doing this. Okay, so I'm going to buy the company, and I don't know if this is the point or is it going to come down here. So I'm going to offer a lesser value so I can turn it around and have it come back up. So it's one of those things. I've really taken a look at the trends. Working capital. That's one that I could probably talk a whole 45 minutes about, but that most business owners don't pay attention to. But basically, taking a look at your receivables and your inventory, minus your accounts payable and accruals, and whatever that net is over the last 12 months. You'll hear the private equity groups talking about this, kind of that trailing 12 months or the average 12-month cycle. This is where you can gain or lose hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions in a business. We've easily saved our clients just by having them pay attention to it. $200,000, $400,000, $500,000, $600,000, because if you, in most businesses, again, 20, 30, 40 years down the road, receivables, I know, Mike's good for it, so it used to be 30 days, but now it's 60, no big deal. We always get paid. I don't need the money, and we're good. And well, what about inventory? Yeah, we bought some stuff there, and we got it there just in case because I got the room for it, so what the heck. And payables, well, I'm an entrepreneur. I don't like to see like I owe anybody money, so as soon as I get bills in, let's pay that bill so I can see my AP and, well, look, it's zero. Well, now as a buyer, they look at that going, wow, look at all the money that needs to be tied up in this business to make it run. It's kind of the gas that goes in the company. So are you a Prius, or are you a Hummer? Because the value is based off of cash flow. The value is going to be based off of cash flow. It's just a matter of what physical assets need to be in the company and also what financial assets need to be in the company. So if you can bring your accounts receivable down just even $200,000 over a 12-month period, reduce your inventory by $100,000, and increase your payables without damaging the relationships by $200,000 just because you're using the terms that they give you, or lengthen the terms a little bit without damaging the relationship, that's $500,000 you get to put in your pocket. $500,000 that otherwise you would have given to the buyer. And that's just fair, not fair, that's just the way it works. So that's something that you can always pretty much work on and save some money. Again, margins. You'll see in some of the slides that I have later, two companies doing $20 million in sales, one with 10% margins that are kind of average, and one that are doing 15 or 20% margins above average. That above average company will get a higher multiple, not just more money, obviously, because there's more EBITDA there, but a higher multiple because companies want to buy companies that have better margins and get a better return as they continue to grow the company. Size of the company, yes, size does matter. The bigger the company, the bigger the EBITDA, typically the larger the multiple they will pay. I mean, that's, again, going back to Tom from GGC, Generation Growth Capital down in Milwaukee will be talking after this. That's what these guys want to do is buy a company, continue to add other value add companies to it, pull out some synergies if there's some, continue to grow the company. Hopefully that EBITDA that was $2 million or $4 million, by the time they go to sell is now 6, 7, or 8. Instead of paying stuff at a 5 or 6 multiple, they're selling for a 7 or 8. And that's how they make that EBIT arbitrage, along with other things that they can do to bring value add to the company. So, the bigger the company, the better. And I would say, if you're in that $5, $10, $15 million range, if you can get to $1 million and $2 million in EBITDA, those are two big break points where if you're doing $2 million in EBITDA versus 1.8, Tom, correct me, but there's private equity groups that will not look at a 1.8 that will look at a $2 million EBITDA company, even though it's only a 10% difference in EBITDA. Clean financial audited, so auditor QVs. We just talked with a company out in the Bakken, out in North Dakota, this last Thursday, and they're doing $13 million in sales and have about a 3.8 million EBITDA, but their financials are very mom and pop. And we said, hey, look, before we go to market and get beat up, where again they're not maliciously hiding anything, but usually in those cases you'll just find things that I thought I was doing it right, but I really wasn't, because we're just compiling the statements and the CPA is doing a tax return, but they're not really verifying anything. That's when, kind of the skeletons come out and they go, well, yeah, I told you I'd pay you a 6 multiple, but it's not 3.8 anymore. Here's the quality of earnings that we did, and now it's 3.2. And you take that, that 600,000 times a 6, and there's a $3.6 million haircut that you just took because you didn't have clean financial audited statements. Or at least if we did it up front, so we're actually going to have them do a QOV or quality of earnings up front before they ever even go to market. So that way, if there's a surprise, we know about it now. We can either take time out and fix the problem, because only time can fix the problem, or at least go into it knowing, okay, it's not 3.8 anymore. Readjust clients' expectations that it is 3.2 in EBITDA, and now we can go into that market. Hey, we know these financials are going to stack up to the buyer's test, because we've already had them tested ourselves. So if you're a $10 million or more company, or your clients are $10 million or more, again, it'd be great if they got audited statements every year, but at least the last 1, 2, 3 years. That's when it really is an investment, because we've talked with different groups, and Tom, I'll pick on you again, but we've had actually surveys done where if someone has good, clean, audited financial statements, or have done a QV, instead of paying a 5, you might pay a 5.5 multiple, is what we've heard. Extra half turn. Is that a fair statement? Yeah. So if you got $2 million in EBITDA, and you get a half turn, you paid maybe $35,000 a year, so you paid $100,000, but you're getting $1 million for a return. It's not a bad return. So it's that kind of things that people need to do up front to make it work. Reoccurring revenue. Not all revenue is created equal. So that stickier revenue, you're going to hear in the private equity, the Green Bay Shark Tank. We're talking about reoccurring revenue. So any kind of reoccurring revenue you can have, or you can talk to your clients about having. Get creative. You look at the HVAC companies. They put in an air conditioner, they fix an air conditioner or furnace, and they're out. Well, that was 10 years ago. Now you see a lot of them going, hey, if you pay $200 a year, you're part of our team, and you'll get 20% off all parts, and you get a free air conditioning and heating checkup once a year. Well, they're just looking to see if they can find things that may not be right. But now you make one call. You don't make 4 calls to try to see who's going to give you the best price and negotiate back and forth. That's that kind of reoccurring revenue. Now they're building up a client base that's more valuable when they go to sell their business if it's just transactional. So our business on the sell side of just selling a business, they go to Florida, we don't see them again. Not great. Buy side, do a deal with that client, do another deal, much better value if we were ever looking at selling our business or transitioning out of our company. So again, understanding what those value drivers are, putting the right team together. The owner will always say, I know my business better than anybody else. And they're absolutely true, absolutely right, and it is true. But running your business and selling your business are two very different things. Again, think about it. If it's your biggest asset that you've had, you're emotionally tied to that asset, you've never done it before, and the buyers on the other side are professionals. How do you think that's going to work out? Probably not very well. Or even if you bring in your accountant or attorney, and they're not a specialist, but they've done my books for 30 years, but they're not an M&A specialist. So it's really building that team. So, we talk about, jumping in the ring. So again, another scenario, there's all kinds of YouTube videos and books. Let's look at all the YouTube videos on boxing. You're going to watch every YouTube video, read 20 different boxing books, and then you're going to jump in the ring with a professional boxer who's 40-1. How's that going to work out? Probably the same as when you go to sell your business. So it's one of those things where really building a team around you makes a big difference. And what do you think the percentage of people who have educated themselves, unlike the people here today, even come to a conference like today, but have never, what do you think, how many people have no education or training but yet try to sell their business themselves? What do you think it is? What'd you guess? 74%. So I would be willing to bet $100 to get anybody in this room that the business owners in Green Bay spend more time on fantasy football than they do on getting their business ready for sale and thinking about how they're going to do it. For sure. They spend more time on setting up their anniversary party, their kids' weddings, than they do on thinking, how am I going to exit this business, and maximize value. Again, largest asset, get one chance. Well, I'll just call my competitor down the street. I hear that a lot. I'll just call a competitor. Is that sometimes the best buyer to call? It's a lot of times, it sometimes can be the worst buyer to call because it's the riskiest because now you're going to talk to them, and it's amazing the information that we see out there that people give up to their competitors. And they go, man, I got all this information. I know maybe your customers. I know your margins. I got your financials. I don't even know if I need to buy you anymore. I know enough. I can steal this business from you. And you did it to yourself. If you look at this study, this is out of the Market Pulse survey, the 5 to 50 million, 60% of the buyers, and usually it's 70 or 80, 60% of the buyers are from 100 miles away or more. So if you're going to say, I'll find somebody in Northeast Wisconsin, 60 to, I'd say 80% of the time, you pick the wrong buyer. Now are there exceptions to everything? Absolutely, there's exceptions to everything. But on the flip side, if you've got a small business that's $500,000 or less, thinking that someone from Denver is going to move to Green Bay to run your sub shop is also not very likely. That times 60 to 80% of the people are going to be within 20 miles to buy those smaller companies because they're looking to get out of corporate America and want to control their own destiny, but they're not going to uproot their kids and family to move across the state or across the country for that size of a business. So again, just another study from a human resource study, 33% of businesses were successful when they shut them down. Again, they just held on too long. So putting together the right team, and I talked a little bit about this before, but it's that M&A advisor, in our world, us doing an estimate of value, going, okay, for $2,000, truly what is that business worth? Then sitting down with the CPA and going, okay, Mr. and Mrs. CPA, it's worth $10 million. What am I going to net out of this thing after the fact? Then going to your financial advisor, and they call them GPS models. They call it, a bunch of different models. But basically, here's all my assets. Here's all the debt I have. This is the net number. It's $6.2 million I have out of my business. Can I live my ideal lifestyle? This is the ideal lifestyle I want to live. I want to have a house in Florida. I want to pull $300,000 or $400,000 out of it a year. I want to take care of my kids' college. Whatever it might be. Can I do that or not? And once you have this, and only when you do those three things can you now make a decision, an informed, well-informed decision, should I sell my business or not? Because otherwise you're just guessing. You don't know. You might even know the value of the business, but you don't know tax. Oh, geez, $10 million, that sounds like a lot. Boy, but I got $4 million in debt, and I got no basis left anymore because I depreciated everything. And sitting down with a financial advisor, again, it could be one thing where it's usually never ever the number you think it is. It's either, boy, I need a little bit more, or, boy, I thought I needed $6 million. I only need $4 million. That's great. So if I get $6 million, I hit a home run. But I could accept $5 million and still confidently sell my business and feel like I got a good deal because, unfortunately, a lot of times it's about ego. But at the end of the day, it really should be about, can I do what I want to do the rest of my life? Can I live the lifestyle that I want? Can I give back or give during, like Bob talked about, to help out my community or different people that have been good to me over the years? And then we have that all-important attorney. There's no one that can blow the deal up more than the attorney. And Katie and others of the attorneys in the room, you've seen it many times. I mean, we had a deal over in Michigan where we tried bringing in one of our attorneys that we know do a good job, and there's a handful of them in the area out of hundreds of attorneys. There's a handful that we work with. And over in Michigan, close to Detroit, he's like, no, I got a guy. And right there I knew I was in trouble. And his guy was supposed to be this whiz-bang young kid that was supposed to be great, had no clue. After, basically, the buyer drafts the document, goes over to the seller, sellers makes the changes, get it back. By that time, you're still maybe 100 changes or so, 30 changes, 4 changes. I mean, it looked like somebody had just got stabbed and blood all over the document. It was all red. And back and forth it went, almost blew the deal up 3 different times. We finally were able to get it done, mainly because I worked with the buyer's attorney to go, please, I know you're going above and beyond with this, but we can get this thing done. Your client wants to buy the business. My client wants to sell. Let's not let this one cog in the wheel blow the whole thing up, because he was starting to get emotional and saying stupid things to get the other attorney riled up and everything else. And at the end of the day, for that great experience, which should have been probably about a $25 million transaction, should have been about a $50,000 fee or so, plus or minus, ended up being a $111,000 fee. So he basically got paid to learn on the job, and it's just crazy. So having the right attorney that's a deal attorney. So this, again, whether it's the CPA, the M&A advisor, the accountant, this is brain surgery. This is heart surgery. This is not, well, my family doctor's been good to me and I've known him for 30 years. I'm just going to bring him into the deal because I don't want to hurt his or her feelings. This is, no, they come in and they work with you. You're kind of co-counsel, so to speak, because they've got legacy stuff that we would never know or the attorneys would never know. But working together with a specialist is absolutely the way that you need to go. And with this, everybody working together for the client's interest will get the job done. He talked a little bit about, but the fifth mistake is timing or lack of planning. And we see this a lot where, okay, I'm going to sell when I'm 65. Okay, great, but what if 65 is November of 2008? Think there's a lot of companies being sold after the crash, the great recession? No. And do you think their value changed overnight? Absolutely. So their business could have continued on or even grown, but what was a $10 million company is now a $7 or $6 million company just because the market changed and they have no control over it. So, interest rates, are the banks lending money or not? Is there more buyers or sellers out there? So you can see the blue it's seller sentiment. So the bigger the deal, the more the seller has the advantage or the sentiment. So there's more buyers and sellers. There's more money than I think there's ever been out there right now. I would have said last year, really anything you touch kind of turned to gold. At least that was the sentiment. I think they said in there too. I think Bob said that's come down a little bit. People are a little bit more tempered. We were talking about this recession. Maybe not in 19, but 20, 21. We've been doing this for 20 years. The last 3 hits of, the dot-com bust, 9/11, and the real estate bust. Those all happened, like that. No one really talked about seeing them coming. This one seems to be, people are kind of waiting for it a little bit. So, we're telling as many sellers right now, if you're thinking the next 3 years, go now, because it's not going to get any better before it gets worse. And if you wait one more time, just one more year could turn into the next window, which is going to be probably 5 to 6 years from now, just to get back to where you are today. So again, no right or wrong. It's not scare tactics. It's just that's what reality is. If you don't hit this window and you want to wait till a good window, all good companies are always going to be saleable, but the values and the multiples will change depending on what all the market trends are that you can't control as much as we all want to say them. So here's what we talked about: interest rates, lending environment, buyers and sellers, confidence, the uncertainty out there. So, when you see, the Dow go up 1,000 points or down 800, up 1,000, that's not good for the M&A marketplace. It just brings that uncertainty into the deal. Again, just going back a little bit to the timing and planning. Again, the lack of prep. 10% of owners have a written exit plan. 38% have at least thought about it and written it down. And 52% don't have a plan at all. So another survey, just backing up the earlier survey that we talked about. So if you can do anything, if I brought anything through to this, if you're a business owner, start planning now. We're happy to talk with you at no cost, confidential discussions. Sit down with your advisor. If you're an advisor, sit down with your clients. Start to talk about, hey, what happens if, scenario. This is a great question. Do you have a written plan? How and why you're going to exit your business? What if today was your last? What would happen to, the business, the family, your employees, and your legacy? We should all do that, from our standpoint. What would happen today if today was our last day? What would, that's a big question, and it's not a fun question to ask, but it's one of those that it starts a conversation. And if you can be that trusted advisor, because I can tell you that no one else is asking your clients these questions. And the business owner is usually not, him or her is not asking the questions to themselves. So if you can help start this question and just get a dialogue going, it really will help them for years on many, many different levels. So the last one is just knowing all your exit options. The way I talk with business owners and they're going, well, I want to, I'm getting ready, but I don't know if I want to sell 100%. I can't go cold turkey. What would I do? Well, there are so many options right now. We talked about, I think Dr. Craig Everett talked about minority sales. That was not a thing 10 years ago. Now, because people are trying to put money at work any which way they can, there's a lot of groups that are raising money only to buy a minority stake. So if you want to say, hey, I want to take off 30%, put that money away because it's a good market and continue to grow, or boy, I'm 59 years old, I see this huge opportunity, but it's going to require me to put down $5 million in debt. Do I really want to take that risk? And if it works out, I'm a hero. But if it doesn't work out, I've just worked for 25 years and maybe not much left net out of my business. So understanding what that looks like, majority recaps, that's where a lot of what we'll talk about today and what Tom and his group and a lot of other groups will do is, hey, let's buy 70, 80% of your business, 60% of your business. We don't want to come in and necessarily run the day-to-day. You continue to do that, but let us help you grow. What resources do you need? Let us help you put some infrastructure in place. Do you need to grow? Do you need a CFO to get to the next level from a strategic standpoint? Can we buy any other companies that would help you where 1 + 1 = 3? There's a lot of that going on, and then you get that second bite at the apple, 5, 7 years down the lane, whatever it might be. Unsolicited offers. If you're a business owner, I'd ask you to raise your hand if you got a call in the last week about someone that wanted to buy your business or had a buyer for you, but I know that I'm not even going to embarrass you to do that because it happens to everybody. There's constantly people calling, emailing. Most of them are fishing expeditions, but every once in a while it might be a good fit. So again, if you prepare, you can take advantage of that. Now we would recommend, in most cases, not all, trying to bring a few other buyers to the table because again, we kind of say one buyer is no buyers, but if you could bring multiple buyers to the table, even if it's just a few, that's going to give you that better peace of mind to know truly what that business is worth at the end of the day. Same thing with a limited party. Some people, I don't know if I want to go through a full process and reach out to the whole world. But okay, well let's really do the research and spend 100 hours to figure out what are the best 15 buyers out there that could be best. Strategic, private equity, family office, whatever it might be, and really drive that process. And with Cornerstone, the last 3 years, I think we've averaged 3 offers per client in the lower end market that we've taken on, and like a 23% premium over what other companies like theirs have sold for. 1, part of our process, and 2, just because of the economy right now, because people are paying up for companies. So it's a time where, we feel, and when we do exit interviews with clients, they say, one of the best things that you did was you walked us through the process, but we had choices, we had options, because now I don't feel like, well, I had to accept this one offer, and you lay in bed at night knowing, okay, is that the best offer or not? But if I had 3 offers or 4 offers, now I know that, yep, that's, now I can pick and choose. And quite honestly, a lot of times it's not just the top offer. It's what's the best fit for you. So it might be the second highest offer, but I like these people better. They're a better cultural fit. They like, they're going to keep my employees. Whatever's important to you, they're going to buy the real estate. They're going to lease it. They're going to keep me on for 3 years. They're going to let me go after 6 months. That's what we start is what's important to you.
Scott, so how many people do you see, how many private equity companies are you kind of seeing in your market as far as buyers go?
A lot. Yeah. It's either private equity, again, if it's over $2 million in EBITDA, you will look at some of them looking at the smaller platforms. If it's in that 1 to 2 area, then they'll look at add-ons. So they might have a company in that space. So they're kind of a strategic, but it's backed by private equity.
How many sellers are saying they don't want to sell to private equity?
There's definitely some out there, and that's we give them the options. And then they'll say, well, if you can bring some strategics and private equity, then we'll take a look. We had one company that wanted to sell to strategic for sure and was going to get out 100% and get to Tucson, Arizona as quick as they could. We brought him 4 different offers. He ended up keeping 20% of the business, sold to a private equity firm, and worked for him for 3 years. Who knows? Until you put it in front of you and you see the different options, they don't know. But we listen to what they're looking for and then go after those types of buyers. Transitioning to the next generation management team, having those conversations early. Too many times you wait until it's too late and maybe the son or daughter doesn't want to take it over, or maybe they're really not the best fit. So, look at transitioning to the management team or sell the company and then help, the son or daughter start up a business that they're really passionate about. The one buyer, and then the recap, you bring it in, so that we have it too where the management team might want to get some meaningful equity, but the owner doesn't want to, sit on the hook for 7 or 10 years to finance it. So sometimes you can get lending, again, depending on the relationships that are out there and the cash flows. But other times, you might say, hey, we bring in a private equity group. They can buy 60% of it. The management team can get 40%. and I get most of my money out at closing, and it's kind of the best of both worlds. So next steps, we gave you a couple surveys and questionnaires. This is called "Is it time for the conversation?" Thank God I haven't had to have this conversation with my kids yet, but I've had to have it with a lot of business owners. And it's a simple way for you not to tell the business owner, hey, you should start this now. Let them answer the questions. It's very simple, non-threatening, and then decide if it's something that they think they should move forward with or not. And if it's not, that's perfectly fine, but at least you're asking the question and starting the conversation. Next steps, those are the questions that we have there. And then if you want to get educated, let myself or Jason know. Give us your card. We can get you into we do every 2 weeks a 30-second update where we just send out an M&A tip, a stat from some of the Market Pulse survey, and an educational article every 2 weeks just to kind of keep you in the loop of what's going on in the marketplace. And then again, these critical questions, we talked about, do you have enough money from a passive standpoint? Is this your largest asset? Do you rely on the business as your primary source of income? Do you need to successfully sell your business to live your lifestyle? Have you had a valuation done in the last 2 years, 2 to 3 years? Do you have life insurance for that buy-sell agreement, or if someone were to happen to you? Have you met with your CPA to talk about tax ramifications? Have you met with your financial advisor to understand what you really need out of the company? So what's in it for the business owner and for your clients? Self-awareness of what's important. Intentional process, again, proactive versus reactive. Efficient decision-making and negotiations, better control of the situation. Less stress, agility to move with unplanned events, those 5 dismal Ds, or an unsolicited bid. Enhance value and grow faster. And the transformation of moving forward into that next chapter. So they're going to something versus running away from something. We had, I've been writing articles for about 10 years, and out west in the Wausau area, a guy read my article about 3 years ago, said, if you think you're ready to sell, you're probably not. And it listed all the things that you probably weren't prepared for, didn't do right. And he focused on those things and went from a $500,000 EBITDA company to about a $2 million EBITDA company, just because he's really focused on the key value drivers, and now he's looking to exit here in this good marketplace. So if you do pay attention, you help your clients pay attention, it really does pay off and can put some pretty big dollars to the bottom line pretty quickly. So with that conclusion, talked about all these things, so we'll go through it pretty quick. But having the right deal team, going through that that 3-legged stool, knowing your exception, and start preparing today. So with that, I'll open it up for a question or two, and then we've got to get the next group going. Any questions? If not, I'll be in the hallway so we can get the next group going. So thank you all again for coming. Thank you for your time here today, and hope you have a great day. And look, snow stopped, so it'll be easier to get home. Thank you.